Hello, I'm Tish and welcome back to my channel Auto Social UK. On this channel I do a lot of new car reviews, I also do a little bit of vlogging, and I've just recently got a content car. So this is my Abarth 595 Turismo convertible. So in today's video I've actually had this car for a month or just shy of a month, and I cannot believe it, the time has absolutely flown by, and I have got a lot to say about this car. Abarth enthusiasts, maybe look away now because I'm not too sure you're going to like what I'm going to say. I promise I'll be nice to it, but I definitely have a lot of criticisms about this car. So if that sounds good, then please keep watching. And if you like the sound of new car reviews, vlogs and project cars, then please make sure you hit that subscribe button. Okay, so I just want to start by talking to you about where I got this car from, because if you haven't watched my reveal video of getting this car, then you won't know. So I got this car from a company called SOGO, which are essentially a flexi lease, almost like a car subscription service. So you pay per month. I pay a pretty reasonable price for this car. Of course, it's going to be more than if you leased it long term or if you got a PCP, but it's actually not too bad. And I got this car and I pay per month, but the great thing about it is I can hand it back at any time. So it's brilliant for the channel. I get to spend some extra time with these cars, really decide what I like about them and what I don't like about them, and then I can switch it up for something else. What I would really like to do is I'd like to do a separate video answering all of your questions about SOGO and going to them in a little bit more detail. So if you have got any questions about SOGO, then please pop them down in the comments below and then I'll sure to answer them when it comes to the video. So let's start by talking about the styling of the Abarth 595 Turismo, because that's probably the best place to start. Abarth styling is always going to be a bit hit or miss. Some people love it, some people that hate it. Before I owned this car, I wasn't really that into it. But since I've been owning this, it's really grown on me. It's such a fun little looking car. And in fact, I think it's got more personality than perhaps anything on the road at the moment. I really like the bubble style headlights. I really like how it's very chunky and squat. That Abarth spelled out in the honeycomb grille at the bottom is really nice. I like when people highlight that in the Italian flag. If I was going to keep this car, that would definitely be something that I'd do. The alloy wheels on the Turismo car are fantastic, and they're really nice to have even as standard with this line of the model. Of course, it's been amazing that this car has a soft top, especially because actually we've been quite lucky with the weather. Yes, it's been hit or miss, but most of the time I've been able to have the roof down. So this gets me to my first point. So it's quite handy that you can take the roof down via the key. So if I hold down the key, that will start to open the roof. I really like this. There are certain things that I find a little bit fiddly about it. One being, sometimes I find it a little bit difficult holding down the button. I've let it go a couple of times, which is a little bit annoying. And other things is that you can't do it up. You can't hold down the lock button and put the roof up, which is a real shame because there's a couple of times it would have been really handy if I could have done that. Right, and whilst we're on the subject of petty roof annoyances, there are a couple of other annoying things. So you can't obviously do the rest of the roof with the key, which to be honest, I don't find too much of a problem. You just have to press it once and that will do the roof down all of the way. If you want to come back up, press it once. The roof will come up into its kind of first position. And then a second time, the roof will then come into its second position. But very irritatingly, the third position, which is this last little section of the roof, it won't do it. So you do have to hold it down the whole time. See, absolutely minor, but it is just a tiny bit irritating. Coming around to the rear of the car, and it's what makes every Abarth owner fall in love, and that's the exhaust system. It looks great to start with. That rear splitter looks fantastic, and then you've got the quite large two rear twin exhausts, but it sounds fantastic. This isn't even the comp, so it doesn't have the Monzo exhaust, it has the standard Abarth exhaust, and it's pretty loud. I'll quickly start it up. Really loud, really quite burbly, a really nice sound. My parents hate it, shock, and really you do have to be wary of this exhaust. Yes, it sounds great, but you can't turn it off at any point. This is actually on the quietest option. This isn't in sport, and this is how it sounds. It really is quite relentless. The comp is even worse. I followed Amelia Automotive the other day, and it's relentless. It doesn't give up. This one, you get some nice sound of it. There's some pops and bangs. It's not quite as loud as the comp, but this is still noisy for a standard car. I'll turn it off. Now, I hate to be a killjoy, and maybe it's my age that's taking over, but I feel like this needs some kind of comfort mode, just so that you can start it up just a little bit quieter, because there are occasions when you don't want to draw attention to yourself. But if you like a loud exhaust, then the Abarth is definitely the one to go for. Let's quickly talk about interior space, because let's face it, you're probably not expecting there to be a lot, considering it's the convertible. What's a little bit annoying is the shape. Because of the shape of this, there isn't a particularly wide opening, and that means it is quite difficult to get things in and out. But actually, inside there's a reasonable amount of space. Plenty for like a weekly shop, but you're not really going to be able to get 2 large suitcases in there. You're going to only be able to put sort of smaller items, which is a little bit annoying, but really, what do you expect? And actually, that leads me on to thinking about another thing that annoys me a little bit. I always seem to accidentally unlock the boot, and I think that's because the boot button is down the bottom rather than being in the middle. So when I'm not really paying attention, I always think to press the bottom one to unlock it, and I always end up unlocking the boot, and that means that when I go to drive away, you've got the little symbol to say my boot's open. I don't know if this is a universal issue that other people have, or whether I'm just a little bit of an idiot, but that is another thing that I've found. Coming inside the Abarth, and it's a bit of a mixed bag for me. Now, the strange thing is I had driven an Abarth probably about a year and a half ago, but I hadn't sat in one for a very long time. And it's not very often that you order a car on a whim without test driving it or without properly looking over the specs. So when this car was delivered, I knew virtually nothing about it. And I didn't know about the driving position. Now, if you don't know, the Abarth doesn't have any height adjustments for the seat. The only thing they have is a seat that tilts forward and backwards, but that's a little bit annoying because if you tilt it all the way backwards, there's a big gap around the back and you can slide kind of objects down it, which is a little bit annoying. There's also no reach adjustments in the steering wheel either, so there's practically no way of getting comfortable behind this car. Lucky I'm obviously quite small, so I don't find it too much of an issue, but I do like to sit down low, so I found it really strange getting used to sitting up really quite high in the Abarth. I also really like these leather seats, I really do, but rather than with the comp, where you sit in them, on these you really do just sit on them. You don't feel like you're hugged in. There is a little bit of bolster, but to be honest, it's not really that supportive, and you do just kind of feel like you sit on top of these seats rather than being sat in them, which would be really nice. So that would make me want to kind of edge towards going for the comp. Everything is okay. I really like the steering wheel. I think that's really nice and makes it look a lot more premium than other cars in this class. But then other things around the steering wheel are a little bit cheap. I really don't like this. I find this quite cheap. In the comp, I do know that you can get that in carbon, which I think looks a lot better. But even in a darker grey, this would be nicer. It just looks so plasticky. The buttons are okay, but again, they all just feel just a little bit cheap. And I don't particularly like the way that the infotainment screen doesn't face towards you. It's kind of facing flat. I would have rather it was facing towards me so it's easier to do whilst you're driving. You do get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto on this. You get Bluetooth. I've got rear parking sensors in the Turismo, but I haven't got any cruise control, which is a little bit annoying. I do like to have my cruise control. I've got automatic lights and I've got automatic wipers, so that's really nice to have. And I think that's pretty much the spec. It's not overwhelming, but it has all of the spec that you'll need. Hi, Tish from the future. I remembered another thing that annoys me. Now, this may be something more orientated towards girls, but do you know what? I guess guys look in the mirrors as well. And that's the little mirror on the sun visor. So very annoyingly, the mirror, as you can see there, doesn't line up with your face. It would need to be here, which I understand that's because of the roof line, but I'm sure they could have moved the mirror over. But all that means is you have to lean right over to be able to see in the mirror. which is a little bit of a pain. If you want to quickly check something whilst you're driving, it kind of means that you're even more distracted from driving than you possibly would be anyway. So as is with this beautiful weather that we're having at the moment, 1 minute when I was filming the intro and stuff to this video, it was brilliant sunshine, and now it's trying to spit with rain. So annoyingly, I'm having to have the roof up. I don't actually really like to have the roof up in the convertible because I don't know if you can tell, but it's really quite dark with all of the dark leather, all of the dark dashboard, and then the dark headlining as well. It does start to feel a little bit claustrophobic. What I do really like is that you can have that 3-stage roof. So even if you just want to let in a tiny bit of light without hopefully getting wet, stop it there. You can do that, and it makes a hell of a lot of difference, and instantly that makes me feel a lot less claustrophobic. I think that people tend to go for the Abarth if they're looking for something that they're going to drive every day, but it's still going to be a lot of fun, and that does tick that box quite well. The only thing that I've found, and now we have to remember that I was coming from a very small 1 litre, very cheap petrol engine, and then into this car, is that the claimed figures are around the 40 mile per gallon. Now I drive very, very sensibly, and I have been averaging at 30 miles per gallon the whole time. I haven't really been pushing this car hard. I don't tend to put it into sport unless I really want to have an enjoyable ride, or if I go out on a little drive in the evening, I'll pop it in sport and I'll have a bit of fun. But most of the time I have it in normal mode, and most of the time I drive it quite sensibly, and to only be seeing 30 miles per gallon is a little bit difficult. I do feel like it's been going through a lot of fuel. Perhaps that's just because I'm not used to performance cars, I completely understand that, but it has used a bit more fuel than I was expecting. Now, one of the most annoying issues that I found about the infotainment screen, and I don't know if this is a universal issue on convertibles, you'll definitely have to let me know if you have a different brand of convertible, but it's the fact that when the roof is all the way down, sometimes on a sunny day, I cannot see the screen whatsoever. I can't see anything. And that's a real shame, especially if you're following directions or if you want to change your music. It's really quite irritating. In fact, I don't really like that infotainment screen at all. I feel that it's just a little bit too far away for you to be able to press it whilst driving, and everything on it is quite small, so you do find yourself being quite distracted from the road if you wanted to fiddle around with it. The one thing I will say about it, which probably won't come as a shock to anybody, but it's not particularly relaxing to enjoy. Everything's very stiff, the steering wheel is quite stiff, changing gears isn't actually the smoothest process, probably because it's up so high in the Abarth like the Fiat, but just, yeah, everything just takes a little bit more effort than in normal cars, which to be honest isn't too much of a problem. But if you're going to be finding something that I'd say you're doing over 12,000 miles a year, I can imagine that it would start to grate on you slowly. That's the thing with the Abarth though, isn't it? It might not be the most precise in corners, it might have quite a lot of body roll, it might not be the most enjoyable and comfortable ride, but that's what makes you fall in love with this car, because it has so much personality. It's that reason why people love BMWs so much, especially the rear wheel drive ones, because it's like, oh, am I going to lose the back end on this corner? And that's what's so great about the Abarth. It's so spirited. It wants to go really quick all of the time, and you can't help but want to give in to that urge to do that. And yeah, that's just why you have to love these cars so much. Yes, they have so many irritating things that are supposed to make up good cars. The infotainment screen's not very good. You don't have the best seating position, but who cares? Honestly, who cares? Something else I found to be a little bit strange is the fuel gauge on the Abarth. So your fuel light comes on around 50 miles left in the tank, and you kind of get your usual fuel light come on. But then when it hits 40, you get another fuel light come on, and then it just stops reading, which is really annoying. So when I was coming home from work the other day, I noticed that the fuel light came on just as I was leaving, which was fine because I've got another 20 miles. And then lo and behold, kind of 5 miles down the road, actually not even that, it stopped reading altogether, which is okay because I've been paying attention, but it does make you worry. I really hope you've enjoyed this video today. I hope I haven't upset any Abarth owners. You kind of have to remember that this possibly would never been a car that I would have picked, just circumstances, and it came up on a really good deal, so I grabbed it and thought, you know what, a lot of people like these cars, so I'm going to see what all the hype is about. Yes, I have those little annoyances, and there is a lot of little annoyances. And I don't know, should we just let Abarth get away with those problems, or do you think that some of those things really should be fixed? I'd love to hear your opinions. But personally, this car is still so much fun. It makes me smile every single day. I look forward to driving to work. I look forward to long journeys. It's got all of the nice creature comforts that I need from a car. Yes, it would have been nice to have a few little extra things, but really, it's honestly got everything I could want, and it's got more than the up, so let's face it, it's a lot better than what I was driving previously. But I don't know, I still feel like this isn't the car for me. But that doesn't mean it's not still a fantastic car. Anyway, please share your comments with me, I'd love to hear them. If you've enjoyed this video today, please go ahead and give it a massive thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye.